Hello all, it's Mr. Wickline here. Today we're going to learn a little bit about metric conversions, especially using the conversion ladder, and how to do conversions versus comparisons. In the homework section up here, you'll see that we should be doing some stuff on slide 7, but we'll be doing that in class actually after you listen to this lecture. Units are tricky things. Examples of units are things like meters and gallons. A conversion is just when you change something to something else. For instance, if you change an ounce into a pound. There are 16 ounces in a pound, so if you have 32 ounces, that is the same as 2 pounds. Just the same as 16 ounces is the same as 1 pound. So that means that unit conversion is actually just when you go from one unit to the other. And a metric unit conversion is specifically to go from a metric unit to another metric unit, avoiding imperial units like gallons, for instance. I am far too shy to read this story to you, but you can press pause now and read it to yourself. So unit conversion was involved in the story because the characters were playing around with different units, like dozen is a unit that was in the story, and ounces and cups were units that were in the story. But in the end, they were all talking about the same volume of coffee or the same number of donuts. It was just that they were expressing it in different units. The units were kind of crazy, though. For instance, there are 8 fluid ounces in 1 cup, and that's sort of random. It's hard to remember, at the very least. If we were dealing with metric units, then the story would have been much easier to understand, because metric units are based on the number 10. So whenever you go from one unit to the other, you're just multiplying and dividing the unit that you have by 10. So basic units in the metric system include things like grams, liters, and meters. If you are going to go from a basic unit, let's say grams, and you want to go to a unit smaller than a gram, that's going to be one of the things on the right over here. Then you need to move the decimal to the right. You do need to know what units lie to the right of the basic unit. In this slot, we're going to have deci. This will be centi, and this is milli. I'll add those now. One thing you need to notice is that the D for deci and the C for centi and the M for milli precede the base unit. In this case, I did choose gram for each of them, but you could have a unit of a deciliter, a centiliter. You could have a millimeter or a milliliter. All of those things are possible. It's really like a prefix and a suffix system. Now, if you do want to move your unit to a larger unit, like if you have a unit and you want to express it in a larger form of that unit, you'll need to go to the left on this ladder. And also that means you'll need to move the decimal to the left. The units that I'm going to put on the left-hand side are larger than the base unit. In order, it's going to be deca, hecto, and kilo. I'll add those now. Now that I've added those in, it's time to focus on the way the decimal moves when you go from the basic unit to a new unit. Since we're focusing on the basic unit gram, in this case, we'll just keep that example. Let's say that we have 1 gram, and I want to express that amount in decigrams. It says here that I need to move the decimal to the right if I'm going to go to decigram, because a decigram is smaller than a gram. If I move the decimal to the right, that's going to be 1 gram would be 10 decigrams. I moved it to the right and I put a 0 to fill the place in between the 1 and the new decimal place. If I went from gram to centigram, I would need to move the decimal 2 places to the right because I'm going to go 2 places to the right on the staircase. Again, I added zeros to fill the place. Now if I'm going to go from 1 gram over to milligrams, that's possible as well, but I'm going to need to go 1, 2, 3 places, and that's going to be 3 zeros and a decimal. So there you are. Let's go the other direction now. Let's go from 1 gram to decagrams or hectograms or kilograms. If I go from 1 gram to a decagram, that's 1 space to the left, and the decimal is going to move that way as well. As you can see, the decimal has moved 1 place to the left from being in this invisible place right here to the right of the 1 to the left of the 1, as you'll see up here in decagram. When I go from hectogram, I'm going to need to move 1, 2 places to the left. So there we are. You can see that I have moved the decimal from right here to the right of the 1, 2 places to the left. And if I want to go from the basic unit of 1 gram all the way to kilogram, I'm going to need to go 1, 2, 3 places to the left. The decimal will follow suit. There it is. We have the 2 zeros in front of kilogram, indicating that we moved the decimal 2 places to the left. Go ahead and pause the video now and read this slide. It has some helpful notes, things that I just explained on the previous slide, but you can read them now and it'll help reinforce anything you may have missed. On this slide, we're going to try a couple of conversions as an explanation. We'll do a lot more practice in class, but do your best to follow along, take notes, and good luck. We are going to need a copy of the conversion ladder, so I'm going to include one here. The first example I'm going to do is to go from the unit milligrams to the unit grams, and specifically 1,000 milligrams into some number of grams. So we can use the conversion ladder for this. You just sort of need to think about what unit you're on right now, and we are on a milli unit, and it doesn't really matter that it's gram. It's what matters more is that it's milli. And when we're going to go from milligrams to regular grams, you just need to visualize where the new place would be on the ladder. So we're going to go from milligrams down here all the way on the right to regular gram. And regular gram is a base unit. We listed some earlier. It's like grams and liters and meters, stuff like that. So we just want to go from, again, milligrams to the base unit, grams. If you were going to walk this on the stairs, you would go here, 1 step, 2, 3 steps. So that's 3 steps to the left, and that's the same thing you're going to do up here with the number value. You do need to know where the decimal is in the number, even if it's not stated. And the decimal is here. It's hidden, but whole numbers oftentimes the decimal will be missing. I'm going to add it in now, just so that you can see it. And know that whatever happens to this decimal is the same thing that would happen as you're moving from milli to centi to deci. So we went from 1, 2, 3 spaces to the left. That means that this decimal needs to go 3 spaces to the left. So if you do that, it's going to go 1, 2, 3 spaces to the left, and it'll land in between this 1 and this 0. I'll add that now. My final answer is 1.0 grams. There is an argument that you might need to include some more zeros there, but it's going to be mostly related to a discussion we'll have in a few days about significant figures and significant digits. So for now, it doesn't really matter how many zeros appear right here, as long as the decimal's in the right place 3 spaces to the left of the original place. I'd like to do one more example with you. Let's do this one where we're going from kilometers to meters. Again, you start at the unit, right, that you already have on the ladder. So kilometer right here, and matches up with kilo on the all the way on the left on this conversion ladder. If we go from kilometer to regular meter is a base unit, so we're going to go from kilo all the way down there. Let's just count the steps, and then we'll memorize the direction and the number of places, and that'll be it. So here's kilo, 1, 2, 3 to the right. The decimal also needs to go 3 to the right, and right now the decimal is hidden. I'll add it in for you now. And it needs to go 3 places to the right. I'm going to show you what that looks like now. So as you can see, I wrote 14,000. I had to put these zeros in because I needed to hold the place of the decimal after it moves to the right. Okay, that's it for practice. These are some more questions that we'll be working on in class when I see you again. And here, let's just summarize really quickly. Metric units are units, but the thing that makes them special is that they're based on the number 10. In order to be convertible, units need to have a base unit in common. So you can't move a unit like milliliters into a unit like grams, because the base unit for one was liter and the other was grams, so they can't be converted. The next time I see you in class, I'll teach you how to do comparisons, or to be able to answer the question which is bigger, 1,000 milligrams or 0.99 kilograms, because it's not as straightforward as it may seem. And we'll talk about any units that cannot be converted. So that concludes our first podcast, and be prepared for some practice in class.